Welcome to Bull vs. Bear, the channel where finance meets fun. I'm Kleven, your unstoppable bull, always charging ahead.
And I'm Chip, the bear with the realest edge, here to keep things grounded. Today, we're stepping into the court with a stock that's as iconic as it gets, Nike.
Is Nike still the GOAT of your portfolio, or is it time for a substitution? We're talking sneaker sales and stock performance. Everything you need to know.
Before we dive in, hit that like button and subscribe to the channel, because just like Nike, we're bringing our A game every time.
All right, let's lace up, hit the ground running, and see if Nike stock is ready for a slam dunk or a timeout. Come on, those get better each week.
Oh, God.
All right, let's do a portfolio recap before we start talking about Nike. Past week, we're down just under 3%. Although today was a very good day. Got back 9 grand.
9 grand in one
So
day is pretty good.
if we had every day like that, it'd be really, really good. It was good. We had CPI data come out today. That's consumer inflation numbers, basically. And it came in exactly what people thought it was going to be. Inflation's up a little bit. Used cars are still expensive. Everything was expected. Now let's talk Nike. Chip, I asked you to do a little research on Nike.
I did.
Tell me what you found out.
Okay, well, first off, a preamble on stock analysis. I did some research into what stock analysis is and what different types are traditionally available in the industry, and based admittedly on quick reading, I think I found that there are two major types of stock analysis: fundamental analysis and technical analysis. Fundamental analysis involves researching key metrics on a company's financial statements, balance sheets, income statements, cash flow statements, footnotes, etc., etc. Technical analysis is built on the idea that share price movements follow patterns, that theoretically you could analyze and identify correlations between those patterns with general market trends. Entire university level classes are built on teaching different types of analysis to smarter people than me and taking 6 months to do it. So I spent 30 minutes researching Nike today. So this
So
is,
you're basically an expert, is what you're saying.
I'm saying that this is as close to worthless as possible.
Okay, fair enough.
Um, so although I was surprised by some things about Nike. So everybody knows about Nike. Nike is an athletic apparel company. I was surprised to find out that that's basically all Nike is. I thought that maybe they had diversified into other industries, or maybe they controlled their vertical, or there was some sort of edge to their company that other companies couldn't compete with. Like, you know how you hear about surprising
Is it?
information about some companies in some spaces that dominate their verticals, like they have an unusual moat surrounding like raw material to
Don't,
production.
don't they have the Jordan swoosh? Isn't that the area where they can't be? No one can beat them.
I
No
guess
one else has the swoosh.
they got the swoosh, but I mean that might be kind of it. So as of May 31, 2024, Nike employed over 79,000 workers worldwide.
Okay.
Nike's annual gross profit in 2023 was $22 billion, a
Okay.
3.79% increase from 2022. You'll notice that that's well under what inflation would be. Um, Most of Nike's factories are located in Asia. That includes Indonesia, China, Taiwan, India, Thailand, Vietnam, Pakistan, the Philippines, and Malaysia. And with the vast majority of those, at least that I could find, were in China, Taiwan, and I think it was the Philippines.
Sounds like maybe one of those is a potentially high future tariff country.
Yeah, I'm thinking the same thing. From what I've heard, tariffs in some industries won't be as aggressive in others, like technology tariffs might be more aggressive than apparel tariffs. And I know Taiwan is a pretty big environment for apparel these days. But this is something that I thought was especially surprising. So, and granted, remember 30 minutes of research. I found an interesting blog post on, let's see if I can source the website. I can't. I closed it already. Well, you're just gonna have to trust me, bro. I found an interesting post about Nike's supply chain structure. And apparently the way Nike produces it's caveat, maybe I'm wrong, but apparently the way Nike produces its apparel is in the standard pattern in much of the industry, which is that team members from Nike will design a product. They will then send these products to a variety of regionalized, localized, privately owned. So Nike doesn't own these factories, but they'll send them to these factories who then source their materials from local regions. And so Nike essentially owns almost nothing, if this document was correct, in their vertical. They own the brand, they own the marketing spend, they own the designers, but or the designs, but they don't really own any of their vertical at
But
all, as far as I can
doesn't
tell.
that also give them low overhead?
Well, you would think that, but they spend over 10% of their annual profit on advertising, and so it makes me wonder if Nike is anything except for a brand.
I'm pretty sure that's all they are. I mean, they have some stores. I know there's a Nike outlet up by me, but
Mm.
I think generally they are just a big brand, right? I mean, like Louis Vuitton, right? They don't own anything but a brand.
I wonder if I think that that's true, but I wonder if nowadays it's even harder than ever before to justify that in the coming age of um, personal fabrication, right? Like you see all of these incredible. Just in the last 10 years, we've seen 3D printing go from the occasional D&D minifigure to MIT demoing a new.
You think people are printing out Air Jordans in 5 years? Is that the thought process here?
Well, I'm a long-term investor, right? So you have to. So from my perspective, diversification is important, but more specifically, if I was going to invest in a company for a long period of time, it definitely wouldn't be Nike for me personally, because from my perspective, if all you own is the brand and your entire vertical is just subcontractors in different countries that you don't really have control over, do you really own anything when I have a 3D printer in my house in 10 years that can make shoes?
Yeah, I mean, I think you make a good point about brand, which is one of the reasons I'm reevaluating my Nike position.
Okay, what's your Nike position?
So we've got 3 Nike positions.
Ooh.
We've got 1,000 shares,
Oh.
or the equivalent of $80,000 basically of Nike. Now we're up almost 6% on this, so we've made about $4,400 on this since we bought it. We bought it at $74.79 a share. It's currently trading at $79.22. Now the reason we're reevaluating our Nike position is they have earnings coming up. Earnings happen on I think they come out after hours on the 19th, so I think next Thursday.
Okay.
Now here's what makes me nervous. Historically, just look back at their historical chart. So you look back at 3 months and you see this high peak right here, right?
Mhm.
This was their last earnings day.
Oh,
As you can see, the next day wasn't a great one.
no.
Now, another thing that makes me nervous is Foot Locker, which is definitely not comparable to Nike because Nike is, I would say, a much more valued brand than Foot Locker. But Foot Locker recently had, but they're in the same space, same apparel space. They recently had their earnings, and as you can see, it didn't go well. They went from 24 a share down to 21. So it's about 10% drop in one day, which that's kind of big.
And when was that last earnings report? Was that in October?
For Nike, yes.
Okay. Was that right after? I know that in my exceptionally deep and well-educated technical analysis of this stock, I read a blog post on Nike.com about their CEO changeover. Didn't they
Yes.
change over a CEO in Q4 this year?
They did change a CEO. So that's, I think a lot of people are optimistic about that. So the stock has a few things going for it. One, it's a dividend stock. I think they pay out $1.60 per share that you own. And it's broken up into 4 quarters. And then they have that going for them. They also have stock over a 5-year period is down. So you could look at that as a value opportunity. Like, the stock, it did go up in 2021. It was at $160 at one point. So, I mean, that's a long ways where we are from now. I mean, it's almost $100 difference.
Was that pandemic? Was that just an artifact of the pandemic?
I think, yeah, everything kind of spiked after the pandemic. I mean, right before COVID, Nike was at $100. So this is actually even lower than it was pre-pandemic, which is very surprising because I mean most companies are above their pandemic levels now. I mean, if you look at Apple or Meta, I mean all of them they've surpassed that.
Mm-hmm.
And Nike did surpass it. I mean, in the pandemic hit, they dropped like everybody else, and then people started getting those stimulus checks and they started buying new sneakers. Everybody was at home teleworking and walking around the yard.
Okay.
And so Nike at one point was $169. It's now $79. So I mean, it's even like I said, it's even lower than pre-pandemic. So the question is, does Nike have room to grow, or are we going to keep shedding value here? And a lot of these dips you'll see, a lot of these dips are earnings dips. I mean, Nike, the earnings have not been good for Nike. Now, the new CEO that you read about, a lot of people he's apparently a Nike veteran. He's been with the company for a long time. A lot of people are very optimistic he's going to change things around.
And is this is your largest position, right? This is True Blue stock. You own over $80,000 in just raw stock.
This is one of mine. I mean, I think Nike, Nvidia, Walmart, they're all about the same. Let's pull up. We'll see. This is probably one of my top 3. We got 80,000 in Nike, 83,000 Nvidia, 120 in Walmart, and and 80,000 in Disney. So those are my 4 biggest. So Nike is definitely, I mean, it's 20% of my portfolio, I believe, and 17%.
What would you? So if you did end up selling Nike before the next earnings report, would you invest in the apparel industry as well in a different company, or would you transition this to a different industry?
I think we're transitioning to a different industry. Maybe Amazon is something I'm looking at. I'm also considering Boeing.
Interesting.
Yeah, airplane manufacturing is a duopoly. It's just Boeing and who's the other one? There's just like one, Airbus. So I feel like Boeing, even though they're down right now, they've had a whole bunch of financial issues. I think long term they're going to be. I mean, there's not a lot of companies that can jump into that space very quickly.
Right.
It takes a lot to get that set up.
Right.
I think they have long term. They'll be a winner. But so Nike has earnings. They have me nervous because earnings, as you know, Chip, can be very risky. Earnings can, with Chipotle, I had it rated earnings time, and I lost. It went down like 10% in a day, to the tune of $40,000 for me. Disney, I had rated earnings, and Disney went up $25,000 for me. Earnings can cut either way, right?
Double-edged sword.
And the question, double-edged sword. The question is, how confident do we feel Nike's going to go up? I bought it at $74.79. It's currently at $79.24. So I have a little cushion, even if it were to drop 10%, I wouldn't lose quite as much. But I also have 2 call options on Nike.
Oh.
So I have a call option that I paid. So I paid for this call option. I paid $2,200 for it.
Okay.
It expires 1 day after the earnings. So this call option lives and dies with earnings call.
Okay.
That's why I bought it.
And what are the numbers on this one?
So my break even is 81.45.
Okay.
So it's really either this contract is going to expire absolutely worthless on Friday after the earnings, or it will be worth 10% more, or the stock stays exactly the same and I still lose quite a bit on that. So, I mean, this is really just does the stock pop up some on earnings?
Okay.
And then the other one I have, this one goes out. This one is a 30. Where's it? This one's a $37.50. So I paid $3,750 for this contract. It expires February 21st. So this one has more time, and the break even is $82.50. So even if Nike does drop, this one has time to rebound.
Okay.
So the question is, I've made $4,500 profit in my Nike stock. What I'm thinking is I sell the stock, I scoop up that $5,000 profit, and then that pays for both of these options. If they, it almost pays for it, maybe $1,000 off, but it basically pays for both these options if they both fail on me. So I feel like I'm kind of hedging a little bit here. I'm taking some of the profit off the table. Worst case, I basically break even if Nike actually plummets. If Nike goes up, if Nike hits $85, I'm gonna make quite a bit of money.
Right.
Now, if I left it all in there, I'd make a whole lot of money.
Mm.
But I think the potential for loss is also significantly increased.
Yeah. Yeah, the thing about Nike is, I didn't I in my research I didn't even find any of their commercial stores listed granted in any volume. That's a pretty
Hmm.
big maybe that's a pretty big revenue generator for them, and I just missed it. I don't read a lot of these
Well,
reports.
and I think they're trying to move more to just e-commerce.
I could see
I
that.
mean, that's what I think everyone's. I mean, having a store is expensive. They're losing more profit. It's a lot easier to ship a pair of shoes from their warehouse to someone else's house
Right.
than it is to have a physical store with an employee,
Mhm.
pay for rent, pay for power. It's very expensive.
Yeah. I wonder if there's I think a bigger question about the power and impact of a brand going forward into the modern age. There are some really interesting studies right now on the impact of micro brands on these more targeted algorithms. So like how personally I don't spend much time on TikTok or YouTube, but I know how powerful those algorithms are, and I know how efficient they are at targeting specific folks. Right? You have a subset of specific interests. You can target those individuals pretty effectively with advertising campaigns. I've been reading in the advertising sector, which I really think that Nike is kind of in pretty deep with, right? Like the advertising sector is functionally what a brand is. It's how efficient you can advertise your product to your consumer base. Do you think that these guys have the fuel to compete with more niche brands going forward into the future that have lower overall costs and don't have to manage this type of mega corporation structure? I mean, these guys have almost 80,000 employees.
Yeah, I think one concern I have about Nike is yes, they are definitely a bigger conglomerate, but I think they're also, I mean, in shoes, I think they're just king, right? I mean,
Mm.
they're making billions of dollars a year. I don't think anyone's Reebok or any of them are close to that, right? I mean, they are the biggest. And the volume, they just sell a ton of shoes. But I do think you're right. Like there are more hip brands now. I think Nike's an older brand. I don't think you're seeing a 15-year-old going, I want to buy Nikes as much as they were 20 years ago.
Mm.
I think some of like Jordan's power has faded since then. And Nike, like you said, it's really a big advertisement company, right? They're advertising for an overpriced shoe, right?
Mm.
Um, and if you think about what they did with Jordan in the 90s and 2000s, I mean, that was all advertisement. They were made. I mean, even Space Jam is kind of a Nike like esque movie. It's all about the sneakers, right? I mean, think about it. It's a big advertise, and it's a popular one. Kids saw that. Everybody wanted Air Jordans because Michael Jordan's wearing Nikes in the movie.
Do you know how big of a? So we've referenced Jordans a couple times.
Yep.
So full disclosure, not a big basketball guy. No, I know, but I grew up in the '90s, and I knew everything about Michael Jordan. I love Space Jam, right? Like even I
Hmm.
knew about Nike shoes because of Michael Jordan. Do you think that maybe this is common knowledge, but is Nike a company today at the size it is because specifically of Michael Jordan, or is it the
Yes.
other way around?
100%.
Hmm.
They are as big as they are because of Jordan shoes.
No kidding. So as Jordan's star power fades, you think this company's value also fades with him?
I do. I think that. I mean, I think it's kind of like with Kanye West. Remember, I'm 100% sure you've never bought a pair of Easy Slides, right? There's no shot in this. I'd bet my whole portfolio on
Yeah, you're right. You're right. I've never.
it. Man, look at that. Already winning.
Yep. Good bet. Good
Um,
bet.
yeah. So, but Yeezy Slides were big because of Kanye, right? I mean, like what are if you just called them slides, they're not as valuable, right? But he created the brand. Kanye, that was the value there. And I ultimately when he kind of went through the insane period, and they cut him, they killed the brand.
Oh, interesting. What company did he work with again? Was it Adidas?
Yeah.
Did they lose stock
I
value?
think
And oh, they did.
oh man, look at this. They had a
Oh
big
shit!
bump.
What the fuck is that?
4% today.
All right. So when
Um
when did Kanye? There he is. You can see him.
let's see. Let's see here. When did they cut their partnership? Google.
Did you just put Google in the Google bar?
Yeah, I know. Kanye and Adidas split. Let's see when this was. Adidas generates August 3rd looks like when they when.
Dude,
That's 2022.
German sportswear.
When?
February.
It says February?
It said that is Adidas still selling Yeezys 2024? If you click that, it says in 2022 he stopped, right?
Yeah, but when in 20?
When in 2022 did? October. The rapper formerly Adidas ended its relationship with the rapper formerly known as Kanye West in October 2022.
Well, I don't know. I don't know if he impacted them as much as. Are you sure he ended? I mean, this basically actually he started going up. The company started going up after they ended it with him.
Right, that he was being racist for like a year beforehand, and
Oh,
that's.
so you think this is all? Do you think this slide is all Kanye?
I think that might be Kanye.
We'll call this the Kanye slide.
Kanye slide. They cut him right there, and they start rebounding.
It's the Kanye slide.
How long? Yeah. How long was Kanye going crazy for?
What's the timeline?
I just want to know if it lines up. This is crazy, man. I bet tomorrow Michael Jordan announces that he's like a crazy racist. Your Nike stock goes to $5.
Oh no, we don't want that. Michael needs to be calm for at least another week.
Oh my god, I think he is. He seems like a good guy, but I don't.
That's good.
But look at this.
He needs. I guess this. I mean, even if it was a year, like I'd be right here. That's still a long. He went from 151 all the way down to $50.
Fuck, man. Is this the danger of attaching your entire company to a single person's name?
Well, and that's why I was recently talking to someone about Tesla.
Okay. Oh,
guys,
yeah.
Do you think Tesla's worth like tomorrow? Elon gets hit by a bus. What do you think happens to Tesla stock? I bet you loses 50%.
Yeah,
at least.
Yeah, Elon Musk is such a human element in all of his businesses. Like you either love him or you hate him. He's incredibly divisive.
Yes, I mean, and his value is just. I think it's like, I think that's most of the stock is just on him.
Yeah, like if you ever, other than the supercharger network, you're familiar with Teslas as far as a product goes.
I have 2 of them.
Right. From what I understand, they're just the leader in the space because they've had a 10-year head start, and maybe Toyota will catch up to them someday. But there's like that classic stock trading snippet of information regarding Teslas, which is that like per car, when you compare it to Toyota, per car manufactured and sold, they're valued at like what 10 times what Toyota is, or 10 times what they should be valued at.
Yeah, and I think it's also because Toyota is just a car company.
Sure.
I mean, I think they have some tools, or I don't know. They have some other like miscellaneous products, but we're generally just known for a car company. I think Tesla is so much more than a car company. They're a charging network.
Sure.
It'd be like if Toyota owned all the cars, but they also owned all the gas stations. They would be worth infinite dollars, right?
Mm. Do you know if the charging network is the did the US government fund the development of the charging network, or was that just an infrastructure investment from Tesla?
I think they might have funded some of it, but I think predominantly it is funded by Tesla.
Okay.
And I've also owned a electric car that was not a Tesla. I owned a Ford Mustang Mach-E, which at the time, I think you can now charge it in the Tesla network, but at the time you couldn't. And we got stuck at a standard charger for 4 hours. just literally, like, the air conditioning was almost using as much energy as it was to charge the car. And we literally came home and sold the car the next day and bought a Tesla.
Yeah, that hurts.
Their network's unbeatable, but also the software. The Mach-E was comparable price to a Tesla.
Mm-hmm.
The software was just the Tesla software is light years above anything else. You can, pre-charge the car. It has all these profiles that link up with your phone. It just does everything better. It's in every way it was better. The only reason we liked the Mach-E was it was a little bit bigger. That was the only difference. It just felt more like a real SUV.
Yeah.
Whereas the Tesla Model Y feels it's a hatchback, so it doesn't feel quite as like SUV-ish. But none of the software is even comparable. Tesla's 10 years ahead of them on the 10 years ahead of them on the software, but the charging network, they're just infinite above. It'd be like, it's not even the same race.
All right, I've got a plan.
Huh?
You sell your Nike stock before their earnings report.
This is my thought.
Yep. And then you take that money and you buy a Tesla Model X from me.
Well, that wasn't part of my plan, but I think you were right. I think we sell this stock before.
Right.
I think I offload it tomorrow.
Mm-hmm. Take your winning.
And I think I take the winnings. We take something off the table, and because the risk is unlimited right now. We have stock. With a stock, you actually have unlimited. I mean, you could lose 100%, and I have a lot of money out there as stocks. Whereas with the options, I have $5,000, which is a lot, but it's basically, if you're a gambler, you can think of it as a free roll. I'm betting on Nike options with free Nike money I got. And I didn't own this stock very long. I bought this back in November 21st, so not even a month, and I made $5,000, 5%, in not even a month.
Is there a strategy in options trading where somebody like you would, so it's like you bet twice that, or 3 times you bet that Nike was going up, right? That's how I kind of view this. Is there an inverse to that strategy where you hold a large number of shares for a stock, but you also have put options in the event that that stock price goes down?
Yes.
Okay.
I could do that. But then, yeah, I mean, that would just be kind of like insurance, but I have to pay a premium for that.
Mm-hmm.
And the premium, anytime around earnings, the premium for puts or buy options is just crazy.
Because of the volatility.
I mean, here, we'll look at Nike option real quick. For next week, you can see like it's a $2 premium versus this week, and there's not much time left. But then you go out one extra week, so December 27th, so 1 week after earnings.
Mm-hmm.
The price doesn't change much from the earnings. It's really just the earnings that's holding that price up.
Oh, interesting.
So like $81 is $250 here, and $81 a week later is $275. So only a 25% change or 25-cent change difference. But the earnings is what everyone knows the stock's going to either. There's 3 options really: drops 10%, stays exactly the same. We don't really do anything, which then the people that had puts and buys get screwed. And that recently happened with Nvidia. Nvidia had an earnings call. Stock really didn't do anything. If you had puts or buy options, you got screwed. You didn't do anything. It basically just stayed exactly where it was at. And then the stock could go up 10%. I do think Nike is somewhat at. I don't know if it can really go too much lower. Even if you go back and you look at their 5-year chart, like the lowest point here, if you go back to our lowest day, which March 20th, 2020, this is the day the world shut down. This is COVID day, right?
Right.
Every stock on this day just plummeted. Nike held at 67.45. So the worst day for the U.S. economy, the stock didn't go below 67. So can it go below 67 now? I mean, the company's is making a lot of money right now still. Their problem is their year over year has been down, but they have the new CEO. So did he change anything?
Probably not.
Hopefully he did.
Well,
but
he just took. He just took over like a month ago.
Yeah, but sometimes that's enough to just give people excitement. You know,
I have mail sitting right here on my desk from a month ago. I haven't quite gotten around to opening yet.
Are you excited about it?
Yeah, I mean, I'm certain there's something.
Could be a check.
It could be a check, but it just goes to tell you that I'm not the CEO of anything. and I still haven't gotten to my mail. And so this guy's
Hey,
the CEO.
you're the co-CEO of Bull vs. Bear.
Oh, that's true. That's right. That's right. Yeah, but
So I mean,
our stock only goes up, so I don't have to worry about
that's
that.
true. There's only one way to go from where we're at, and it's up. So I don't know. I don't know how much lower it can go. I think the fact that it is a dividend-paying company is big. I mean, at some point, if they're paying $1.60 per share, the stock gets too low. It just becomes a no-brainer to buy a bunch of shares just for the dividend payouts. I still think it is a super well recognized. I mean, it's got to be one of the top, what do you think? Top 10, 20 recognizable brands in the world. You show someone a Nike symbol, they know it. Anywhere in the world almost.
Yeah, no, there's no question that Nike is an iconic brand.
And I think brand has a certain amount of value. So I think that's like, they weren't selling a lot of shoes on the day COVID shut the world down, because every store they had, and this is before they had a really big e-commerce section, all of their stores that sold shoes shut down. And the company was still valued at $67 a share. So how much lower can it go? That's the question. So I think the plan is we sell the stocks and we hold the options. I have 2 options calls. That gives me a total of 1,000. I'll still have 1,000 shares worth of value. So if the stock goes up $5, I make $5,000 more. If it goes down, we lose $5,000. I think it's just a simple. I feel like it's kind of a flip of a coin with Nike at this point.
Right. Yeah. Well, those are better odds than a casino.
Well, that's true. I have a friend who has a roulette strategy that he swears you can't lose. I'll have to go over it with you one day.
I'm excited to hear about this roulette strategy where you can't lose.
Yeah. All right. Well, I think that's the plan. We're going to sell Nike off probably tomorrow, maybe early next week. I do think if you look back at the 3-month chart, right before, so October 1st is their earnings date, when they plummeted off the high end, all the way up to earnings, boy, they were riding high. I mean, they just kept going up. So I'm hoping maybe we get a couple more days next week where it peaks up, and then we sell maybe on Tuesday.
And then Wednesday, you buy me that Model X and it drives to my house.
It'll be in your driveway.
Oh, thanks, man.
All right. I think we'll end it here. What are we talking about next week, Chip?
Should we decide what you're going to invest $80,000 into next week?
That is something we should talk about. I think you and I should both look for a company.
Okay, and we play. I propose a company. You propose a company.
Yeah, I think I have to give you a rule though.
Okay.
It can't be an index fund.
Well,
it has to be a real company.
I'm trying to protect your investment, Kleven.
I think you want me to make the bare minimum this year.
One of us is going to be living in one of the other person's houses in 30 years, and I'm hoping that it's me living in your mansion. But I'm worried.
Mine would be much nicer than. I mean, not to get me wrong, I'm sure your house is nice, but if you're living in my house in 30 years, it's going to be a really nice house.
Yeah, that's what I'm worried about. I'm worried that you're going to be living in my regular house.
Get that basement ready.
Oh, boy.
All right, we'll end it here, and next week we'll talk about where we're going to put future Nike money. That's it for this episode of Bull vs. Bear. We'll catch you guys next week.
See ya.